last. Well, it is 10 minutes past the 11 o'clock hour. We're only running like 5 minutes late, aren't we?
That's all.
That's not too bad, is it?
I think you'd be a great meteorologist, though. If it's cold and water falls, it's going to snow. Right.
You just can't go wrong with that
Right.
kind of wording, can you?
That's right. Yeah. But if the cold air don't get here, it's going to rain.
That's right.
Yeah,
Cold
so-
rain. And I know you're looking forward to the snow, aren't you?
I am. I want some snow. I would like to see some snow. I was disappointed when I got this morning and saw all of western North Carolina. Everything basically from Raleigh, Fayetteville this way was under a winter storm watch, except for Cherokee County was the only place in the state that wasn't under a watch. So it was kind of disappointing to me. But who knows? That might change.
And
it looks like it's coming a little bit lower than it they normally said it was going to. So maybe the cold air will get here.
I think normally about this time of year, I just encourage everybody to take their heaters outdoors and plug them up to
Right.
warm up
Warm up the atmosphere.
just warm it up
Yeah.
a little bit, just so we're in.
Now, I tell you,
good
I'm the
shape.
kind of person, though, seriously, though, that I like warm weather. I like sun. I like the warm weather. But if it's going to be cold, I'd rather it snow if it's going to be cold. If it's not going to snow, just warm up. So,
Absolutely. All right.
Yeah.
Well, we have quite a bit to talk about today, and
Yes, sir. It's been a while since I've been here.
It has. We had. Let's see. You were out one day. Then the next Friday was a weekend. No, it was the day after Thanksgiving.
Right.
So
Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah.
We had a little family in and stuff. Couldn't make it to that one.
and the following weekend you were in Asheville.
And
so
Asheville, yeah, I had a procedure done in Asheville. So, and it turned out good. I'm in good health. So
that is good. I got the message
Yeah.
and I was excited.
Right. So, as you get older, you have issues and things that happen that, you quite don't really know whether that's just part of getting older or whether you got some other issues need to be checked into. But had some tests done and had some things looked at and had my heart checked and all those kind of things. So I'm in good health. So I'm ready to go lose some weight now, unfortunately.
Did the bruising clear up?
Still have a little bit of bruising. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but you can see it there.
That's
Still
where the
bruising
doctors
on my
went
heart. That's
in.
a week
Oh,
ago,
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's still quite there.
Yeah, they do the heart cath through the wrist now if you have good veins. So that's the way they went in and did that. So
I'm tickled that you got a good report.
right, it was good. And so unfortunately, same thing that they always tell you when you go to the doctor: you need to eat better and lose some weight and all those kind of
That's
things.
exactly why I don't go to the doctor. Just it's so discouraging.
So as soon as my wrist gets better, as soon as can get my strength back in my hand, I'm ready to start my exercise regimen. And of course, it is Christmas time, and for those that see what Tim did to me this morning,
Oh,
I have
yes.
candy sitting in front of me. So
Let's see. That you just held up came from Elizabeth Brooks. She was kind this morning and brought me those treats. And, of
Right.
course, I'm going to share. And then Helen Long brought me the box of, what are they called? They're the chocolate with the things inside of them. It's on the tip of my tongue, but they're delicious.
like a truffle or something like that.
It's kind of like that. There's Buckeyes.
Oh yeah,
That's the word I'm looking for. And then
Yeah.
salsa. And I understand, let's see, Frankie Dockery brought me, all of us, a coconut cake and apples. And then I understand the power board just dropped off
Yeah,
something.
they just dropped off some stuff
I'm
on
excited
there.
to find out what that is.
right.
So a lot of great folks. I love my job.
I love our community. We have great people here.
We really,
certainly
really do. And
Yeah.
a lot of kind, giving, caring folks. So thank you,
Right.
everybody out there, for being who you are.
Right.
So I understand there's some new developments in a case that has been under investigation for a while.
There he is. We were able to through our investigative division. I just want to brag on my guys a little bit in investigations and the hard work that they do and the time they put in there. There's a lot of things that goes on behind the scenes that the public never sees, and a lot of times investigations take a long time. And if you remember there, it's been a couple years ago now, maybe not quite, maybe 2 years ago now, that we had a bank robbery out on 64 West at the BB&T Bank as you come into Murphy. It was a snatch and grab where a guy jumped the counter and grabbed some money and ran out the door with it and got away before anyone could respond or get there. So our investigators have worked on that all this time, and they made some developments in that case. And Monday, we were able to indict a person on that bank robbery. So we've now formally charged Andre DeCarlos Foster with robbing the BB&T Bank there in Murphy. And he's 40-year-old out of Powder Springs, Georgia. And he is currently in prison in Georgia now for a similar incident that happened in Blue Ridge from robbery of a bank in Blue Ridge. we're able to tie him to some DNA evidence and some other things that we had, physical evidence that we had here in Cherokee County.
Did the Blue Ridge robbery happen about the same time?
I can't verify that. I know that it happened a while back, and he's currently serving time for that, so it had happened in some length of time back. But it was a similar thing. It was a snatch and grab out of the bank in Georgia. And we have looked at a lot of different suspects through the last couple of years on this robbery, and but they were able to make some positive identifications and get him indicted on that robbery. So we're happy about that. That we're able to solve that crime and put that to rest.
And that's not something that's easy to do whenever you have a suspect who doesn't live here locally. He's not known here.
Right.
His face isn't familiar to our local residents.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of reaching out to be able to solve that case.
Yeah, and our investigators who went in that day to the bank, they were very vigilant. They spent most of the day there collecting different types of evidence from the bank. Collecting things that he had touched and fingerprints and DNA evidence and all those kind of things. And so even though it took a while to get matches and to get stuff together and to verify who that person was, when you don't have a name, you don't have a tag number, you don't have anything like that to start with, it takes a little while to build that from scratch.
Right.
And investigators did a great job on putting that together and charging this person with that crime. So we're just happy that came to pass and that happened.
All right. Well, very good. Glad to know there's some closure there.
Right.
Well, we've been talking in the past about some changes at the detention center. So let's just make this a positive show and talk about some of the positive changes that you're making.
Well, as we know, and I think the paper reported last week, we hired Sean Chris from Clay County to come in as detention administrator. This has been his first week there. And so some of the things he's done already this week is he's went through and evaluated kind of where we're at, deficiencies that we have, things that need to be worked on, training issues, policies, all those different things. He has went through all those stuff and is currently working on changing those things that need to be changed in the detention center. One of the things that we have that's a challenge for us right now is the fact of that through our turnover and things that we've had in the past at the detention center, we have a lot of new people, young people working there. So we definitely have some training issues that we need to deal with and getting certifications and things of that nature, getting them up to speed of where they need to be. And I want people to understand that the changes that need to be made and the things that need to be done is not things that's going to happen overnight. There's some things that we can change overnight, whether it's policy or whether it's the way we do things. But experience takes time, and training takes time to get people to where they need to be on that. And so we are currently in the process of putting all that together. We have talked with some different places around the state that does detention training and does some specialized classes. So we're trying to put all that together to get everybody through that and to get them to the place where they need to be that we feel good about. Along with not just those issues, but Sean has looked at those things as far as the policies and the way we do things, everything right down to visitation to the way we work with the clerk's office to the way that we do transports. He's really going through everything with a fine-tooth comb and making those decisions that we need to make. And like I say, some things take some time that we have to work through, but other things that we can make some pretty quick decisions on and some changes that can help things right now. So I'm excited about it. I'm excited that we're getting people in play. He's hiring other people to come in to help him, some other administrative staff, so that with experience and with training that have done this before. So I'm very excited about getting these people on board and building up the things that we need to do down there the way that we need to do it.
And I think you said he came from Clay
County. Yeah,
that's right.
And one of the things we had talked about and the paper had reported is that we just want to, we talked at length before I hired him for this position. And one of the things that we would like to do is basically change the culture of the jail. And when we talk about changing culture, we're talking about changing expectations. We're talking about changing the attitude. We're talking about changing the environment, all those type of things. And that comes not just with your staff, but that comes with your inmates and working with them and rules and regulations they abide by, and really developing that partnership type thing between the inmates and the staff, that we can enforce the rules that we need to enforce and do the things that we need to do, But everybody coming together, trying to work together to get this done. And the inmates want a better environment. They want a better place. Detention officers want a better environment, a better place. And so I think with all of us coming together and working together on this, is something that's very doable and that it's very excited that we're getting accomplished. So.
I recently took a tour of the detention center. I'd never been to the inmate housing area before. That place is a lot bigger than I imagined from the way it looks on the outside. I didn't realize it was a two-story facility.
It's a two-story facility. We house 150. I think we have the capabilities to stay in the understate regulations. I think they're going up to 157, 160, something like that. Mm-hmm. But we can house 150 comfortably without having to add extra space there. And so it's a huge facility. It's a lot to do there. And so a lot of people don't realize, like I say, not just the feeding of the inmates and not just the medical, but you have other things as far as getting them back and forth to court, getting to doctor's appointments, getting not just you have your in-house doctor staff that's there, but also you have to take them to the hospital and other places for specialty things that need to be done. So it's a very intricate working place that takes a lot of moving parts to keep it going. So there's a lot to do there.
How does the detention center staff, how do they, I know you have the medical situation under control, but as far as mental health, how is that handled through the detention center when you have an inmate who is having some issues in that area?
There is different avenues for that through our medical staff. There are different Appalachian Council in different places here. They do evaluations on inmates, and so it could come from a detention officer after hours, or it could come from the medical staff. But we have protocol and policy where we have the mental health professionals come in and do evaluations, and they won't tell you whether someone is, I don't know how to word this exactly. I'm trying to use the correct terms. I'm not really sure how to word it, but they won't tell you whether someone is suicidal or not suicidal. They will tell you what the likelihood of things are, whether they're on a it's very likely that they are, or very unlikely. And so based on their evaluations and based on the evaluations they do, kind of determines where we go from that point as far as observation, or as far as doing involuntary commitments, or as far as how we need to proceed from that point. So along with, if an inmate's in there and they've got pending charges, it's not as simple as doing an involuntary commitment like you do just a citizen. There's other avenues we have to do through court orders and taking them to Raleigh and being in safekeeping in Raleigh and things of that nature. So there's a lot of different avenues you can take, and every situation is independent of each other.
Yeah, I realized I didn't realize when I was taking the tour that some of the terminology had changed, because at some point this inmate would be on suicide watch, but that's not the term to use anymore. And I was told the right term, and I can't bring it to my head either. Yeah.
Well, what we typically say is on observation.
Observation.
Yeah, and they're up in front, and they have an observation room where they are there to be watched. And if they're on observation, they do 15-minute checks. Every 15 minutes they're checking on a person. But in the course of that, there's always people walking by, that are still observing. But they have to document every 15 minutes when someone's on observation. So there's, like I said, there's a lot of protocols and procedures that those detention officers have to follow. And sometimes when you have young people and new people in there, sometimes it's hard for them to absorb and get all the things they need to do. But those are the issues that we're working on, and training issues as far as trying to get everybody to where they need to be.
It was an interesting view from the tower that's kind of up that watches over. Can you tell our listeners and viewers, how are the inmates separated in cells?
Well, there's different ways. We have a federal inmate program. We have state misdemeanor confinement program that we hold state prisoners through certain charges there. They can be ordered to serve their time in the county facility. We have pretrial detainees. We have a lot of different areas there that people are segregated by. We have a sex offender pod. We have, of course, the female pod. And then depending on age, juveniles, there are certain things you can do with them, certain things you can't in there. Like sometimes you may have a juvenile that's in a certain age that can be housed with general population during the daytime, but they can't spend the night in the general population. You have to house them separately for sleeping time. So there's a lot of different ways of segregating people through there. And a lot of times you have to segregate people based on crimes. As far as if they're co-conspirators, they have to be segregated. If they're people that may be at odds with each other, like you may think of gang activity, so you have two different type gangs. They may have to be separated that way. And so there's just a lot of different ways you have to segregate and separate inmates in housing.
I'm guessing with this time of year, where the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, you probably have a lot more visitors to the detention center to visit with family that are in there than normal. Are there any changes in hours or?
Well, that's one of the things that Administrator Crisp is looking at to see how to do those changes on visitation. One of the things that we had a conversation yesterday just about visitation, and one of the things that I'm very reluctant to do, and I explain the reasons why, and I want to share with our audience why. We have video visitation. And so I know in years past and in previous administrations, they did 24-hour visitation. You could come anytime, day or night, and visit your loved one at the jail. One of the reasons why I chose to cut those hours down and not allow that 24 hours a day was the fact of that when I came in, and the magistrates would tell me when they had their magistrate's office at the jail then, is that, all hours of the night, 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, there were people in and out there with small children and sleeping bags in the floor, and kids crying because they want to be home and in the bed, and school-age children that needed to go to school the next day, but their parents had drug them to the jail to visit their loved ones that's in the jail. And these kids not being able to go to school the next morning, and different things, having problems within the school system. And so we chose to change those hours to cut down on some of that. But one of the things that I did talk to Sean about yesterday was looking at those hours and seeing if there was a way that we could accommodate people more than we're already accommodating them, and what those hours need to be. So part of those evaluations that he's doing that's part of the evaluation. So there may be visitation hours changing coming very soon. So hopefully people get more time to visit during the holidays.
All right. Yeah. What kind of big holiday plans do you have?
I don't have any.
No holiday plans?
No. I think I've reached a point in my life where I'm about as content to be home as to be anywhere. So as long as my kids are home and my family's there, I'm content with where I need to be. So I'm sure we'll do some traveling. We'll go some different places, but
eat some good food.
Eat some good food, yeah. But talking about changes, a couple other things that we've got going on there on the sheriff's office side. We are currently talking to and meeting with Department of Social Services about assigning an investigator to work with social services as a full-time position. Okay. Currently, right now, what happens is when they do an investigation and they have it turns into a criminal investigation, that they have to mandate report to us by law, or to Murphy or Andrews by law. Typically what happens is they just send it over to our office. It goes through our investigative process. It gets assigned by the lieutenant to an investigator, which is usually Roger Williams. Sometimes it goes to other people, but primarily it goes to Roger Williams now. But one of the things that we're looking at is streamlining that process and putting an investigator out at the Department of Social Services to work with them full time so that they can handle the referrals, work with them hand in hand on investigations that they're doing, assist with other law enforcement needs they may have out there. And so this is something that may blossom into needing more than one person at some point in time, but we want to put one person out there and try to get that ball rolling to see how that's going to look and how that's going to work. We're yet to be determined when that's going to start and what the parameters around that is. And so hopefully next week we're going to try to meet with the director out there and her staff and try to see what we can do to facilitate that and put that together. To help streamline some of those child abuse cases and sexual assault cases and some of those things that can make it flow a little better within the court system, flow a little better within our investigative process. And so we're anxious about that. And I know we're about out of time already, so I'm talking real fast. But one other thing that I want to mention real quick is that we're exploring. I know a hot topic has been out there in the last several years about an animal control officer and trying to do something about animal control. We are exploring that option. I've met with the commission board and talked with them about it, and also talked with some commissioners one-on-one about animal control. I think we're in a place now that we can facilitate something and help make that happen. But still, I think the people need to understand that once we do that, that we are still only able to enforce the laws that are on the general statute books now by the state.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have an animal control ordinance that addresses things such as leash laws and stray animals and those type of things. So what we'd primarily be dealing with is those things that's already on the statute book. Once we get that up and running and get that going, then we can go back and look at, with the commission board again, to see if there are ordinances that need to be written or enacted to strengthen that to help what we're doing in Cherokee County. And again, that's something that we don't know what date we're going to start that or when we're doing. We're just in the exploratory phase of that and talking about that. But I think within the next several months, I think that's something that could potentially be doable to get that going. We have a dedicated person to handle the animal calls and things that come in. I was sharing with the staff this morning. I was in dispatch the other day. I was there for less than an hour. And while I was there, I know there was a couple of animal complaints came in about dogs in the area. There was one came in about cattle. There was one that came in about horses. There was one that came in about goats. Mm-hmm. And so when you think about the animal complaints and calls that come in, it has more to do than just stray dogs. There's a whole gamut of that that people report that come in that we have to look into. And so again, we're looking at the changes that we're making about assigning somebody particularly for that, to have a contact person for those type of investigations and calls. So we're hopefully making a lot of changes, doing things that'll help our community and help our sheriff's office to streamline and be better than we were before.
I know when you even mentioned the possibility of animal control officer, you probably just had thousands of people out there screaming hurrah, and then another thousand of people saying, oh no.
Oh no.
It's a situation where people are very passionate either one way or the other.
Right.
Not really a lot of in between.
Right.
They either want it or they don't want it.
I think anything you do that's different or new, there's always those that brings incitement to, and there's always those that brings fear to, because they don't know what to expect. And I'm one of those people that I agree wholeheartedly that that we're a rural county and that we live in the country and we're not a big city. And so I'm not very passionate about, I'll put it this way, about having a leash law about containing animals to your own property and not allowing them to roam or those type of things. There is an argument for that, and there is a side of that and people who do want that. I'm not real passionate about it, but I do think that we do have to be responsible. I think we have to be responsible people with our pets. And one of the things that I share with people all the time is the fact that even though that's the way I feel, I have 2 German Shepherds and they're great dogs. I love them to death. They love to roam the neighborhood, and a lot of the neighbors love them, like to feed them and play with them and those type of things. But I had a neighbor that it caused problems with, and I had a neighbor that didn't like it, that was upset about it. And so even though I didn't agree with it, as being a responsible pet owner, I went and got the wireless fence system to where I could keep them on my property and keep them at home. They do escape from time to time. The batteries do go dead from time to time. They do get gone from time to time. But I think as an animal owner, you do have that responsibility to do what you can to live peacefully with your neighbors. And so when we talk about animal control, those are the type of things that we're talking about. I think there's a fear that hunters won't be able to hunt and dogs won't be able to run loose, and if you do, you're going to get your dog taken and it's going to be killed and all those kind of things. And sometimes a lot of those fears are unjustified, because there are ways of working through those processes to prevent those things from happening. So
there's good lovable pets that just want to go love on the neighbors, and then there are vicious pets that want to go kill their neighbors' dogs and things like that, which I can understand that's a nuisance and that's causing a burden on the victim.
But again, on those vicious animals, those things are covered by general statute. There's already general statutes that help with that. It can take care of that. And so, along those lines, there's not really a need of enacting an ordinance for vicious animals, because those are already covered by statute.
Do you think the general statute is enough for enforcement at this point?
I think for now. I think once we can get this off the ground and get it going, we can see what we have at that point and see whether we're able to satisfy the needs of the community at that point. And if the community needs are still not being satisfied, if they feel like that's not enough and they want other avenues, other ordinances, that is something the community and the commission board, and I'll be more than happy to help with that. But that's something that would take the commission board to enact ordinances to deal with. And so that's all something that I have to be hashed out later. But I feel like with what's already on the statute book and what's already there, it's sufficient to protect people as far as vicious animals and vicious dogs and things of that nature. There's already a process for that.
All right.
Okay.
Well, I see our time has come and gone. Anything that you wanted to cover today that we didn't get to?
No, we're just still. I am still praying for snow. I don't want the 12 to 18 inches that Asheville's going to get, but I would like to have 2 or 3 inches of snow.
I'll pray that it's all over your house.
It may be. Y'all have a great day.
All right, folks, you're tuned to WKRK 105.5 FM, 1320 AM, cable TV channel 25, worldwide. We're at country.am.